What's up everyone, welcome back to a new video on the Alien Algo channel. Today we'll be going over the market skin per usual. So with that having said, let's get straight into it. The idea we had yesterday were some lower time frame setups where we first get some minimal downside and then we get some sort of liquidity taken out and resulting in a lower time frame reversion, which here we had a quick move towards the upside on a lower time frame. The setup was shown right here, where we also deviated from that daily open, where we wanted to trade it back into that daily open, right? And in the end, we reclaimed this shit, and it really was that low for the day. So we had a second point to look at, of course, which was based on the volume again. Here you had this entire move from here till here. We had this value area low right here, but that second volume profile I pointed out to you guys was this one from this point taken, where we see that this is that value area low. So on a lower time frame, we wanted to reclaim that value area low, right? Because if this managed to hold, we quite literally should go straight towards that PLC again. And in the end, it even deviated all the way back towards that value area high. So from that point, what should we be looking at right now? I hope you guys see the logic already. I will go onto the BTC charts at first on the higher time frame, where we pointed out this level to be a key resistance, which was formed on a lower time frame, which was in confluence with this Fibonacci extension. So this is really a level we would like to see hold. If we find acceptance back below this, I think we can get a bit of an impulse towards the downside, knowing that we did not spend a lot of time here, nor here. Right, so if we really manage to find acceptance back below this, where price does something like this, then I really think we should be trading a lot lower, where we could get a pretty nice drop. But until then, we're still trending up. On a lower time frame, we do have a little shift, it seems like. We'll be going on the perpetual chart for that in a bit. But what I really wanted to point out is that if we get that volume wait, I need to do that at the other chart. I will first point out the range in terms of technical basis, where we had this swing point. We had that swing point at the bottom side, and here we sweep this. So this was your prior range. Now let's remove this one for now. What do we have at the upside? We have these ones right here. So here we had a deviation at the upside, deviation at the downside, but still overall this was your prior range. So the level that we really should be respecting is right around here. That it would be quite logical to retest this and then get an impulse towards the upside. But if we manage to do some move like this, like shown here, it could get a lot worse, because then we have a deviation at the upside of a range, which could literally result in an instant move back towards that 0.5, which from the top of my head should be right around here, where this is that midpoint from the range. When you look at the left side, fuck, that was not supposed to happen. This one. Yeah, okay, we're back. Perfect. Quick fix. Okay. So yeah, this point really should be important to hold, because if we get the acceptance below this, we should get some sort of bigger size drop, which if you are long could really fuck you up. So keep that in mind, that this really is that crucial level to hold as of now, with this being your prior range high and also your Fibonacci extension. So if we hold all good. If we find acceptance below this point, I'm leaning towards a rotation to the downside first, where we perhaps retest these previous all-time highs, which in my opinion would still be logical, but like price action loves to do, it likes to not give opportunities, where people are always wanting to take a big retrace and buy it, right? Because you have to think of it like this: people were shorting this move, or they have sold their Bitcoin right here at the top. And then here they feel quite smart. Here they say, yeah, this is a bull trap, and then shit starts to rip up and they become massively bearish, right? Where now inside of here, they're like, fuck, I sold my shit. And now they want to buy back, right? But this, a lot of people don't dare to buy. If we really retrace into here, a lot of people don't like to buy this shit. Which you do have a logical stop right here if price starts retracing down. But people always want a deep retest, which when you just look at the current market environment, they are just not really given, right? Even when we were going up here, not really a deep pullback, not really a deep pullback. Here the same. Only here we had a decent sized pullback. Only from here again, we had a decent sized pullback within a matter of days. So those really big pullbacks just don't occur that often, which is why, in my opinion, still is better to be looking for lower time frame longs than for shorts, until we have like a massive shift in context where, let's say, price has made an high and starts really to do something like this on a daily. Because now we really should be expecting it to form a range, potential lower high and potential bear rally, right? Or we just continue in that range, right? Those would be those scenarios. But when you're like at this stage of, or even here, in my opinion, it's just not worth it to short. But when you've broken down and you retest that shit, or you make a logical lower high, okay, now it's really worth to short it, in my opinion, where you have a clear invalidation. Because let's say this point that I've just drawn would likely be looking like some shit like this, right? Where we perhaps have this, and then it goes down. Now here you have a very clear invalidation, so you can trade it with some more size, where you are a little bit more confident in the trade, knowing that the win rate could be higher. So that's a point thing I wanted to tell you guys. But yeah, as of now, if we just hold this, it all looks good for Bitcoin, in my opinion. But finding acceptance below it should really invalidate short-term bull mindset, and then it requires a bit more defense. So like say that again, if we do some shit like this, now here I will be a little bit on the bearish side, expecting a deeper pullback. But as long as we hold this area right here, I am really not that concerned. And if we do some shit like this, here we could also potentially hold. So with that in mind, I do favor long still for now. But yeah, if we just get a logical lower high, like from an impulse, so we need an impulse down at minimum. Really does not matter at what price point, but an impulse move down, and then ideally back into a previous low. So let's say price did some shit like this before, that we come into here and then trade it to the downside, right? I don't really like it's not really just smart to trade short in an upgoing market, unless you're like talking about real low time frame where you trade these types of rotations. Because logically, here you don't really have a logical stop. But from this point you do. From this point again, you have a logical stop. Well, here you don't. Here you do. Here, this is your logical stop. So on a lower time frame, you can get away with it. But just when you look at this on a higher time frame, it's just quite unwise to short it, knowing that all these pullbacks just are so shallow. And when you get a massive downwards move, you will get an extreme lower high, and then you can trade this part instead. because this part you really can't predict, like when it exactly will drop. But when the context has shifted, now this, that it will go lower here, this is predictable, where it usually will correlate with previous price action. Like an example like this, where it gets back into that area high, right? So with those concepts having explained, let's get into ETH real quick, where I stated I want BTC to range and ETH to go up, but they are doing that quite the same right now. But ETH still is looking to be lagging behind, which gives me the opinion that it will keep grinding below it for a short while and then just give that impulse, like I stated before, that on this initial move right here, this is the day that Bitcoin started to range. Right around here. Here, Bitcoin started to form that range already. So right here. And ETH just had one final like impulse before it really started to form its range. So I think it will be quite similar in one of the upcoming days, where ETH just starts taking off and BTC just starts to range. Where ETH will be showing strength and just taking those altcoins with it. So when we get into this chart right now, we should see this is that crucial level which we on the lower time frame seem to be holding, where we broke back above it and currently seem to have taken a little bit of lower time frame liquidity right there into this volume void. Beautiful. So this could look quite well. I'll try to look for a setup at the end of the video, so keep that in mind. But for ETH, yeah, it looks quite well. And on a daily, this is that level which we want to see it close above, right? That's 2982. Because currently we have been unable to do so for 3 days in a row. So if we really make a 4th day with like a big wick at the upside, we should get a rotation down. But if we manage to clear this level, we really should trade into this. And then we can look at breaking higher, where this would be that level to flip. If we trade into here and start breaking it, then this really is that level to break at that higher point to get that impulse towards that 3300 level. So when we're looking at that lower time frame setup, which was given for ETH, yeah, it was a fucking banger. Where I stated on a lower time frame, we really should be a little bit bearish because it was just not looking that good. It just lost that value area low. When we just identified this range, again, here you have that value area low. And what do you want to see? You want to see something like this, right? Where you get below it, get back above. Then you can have a little bit of an upside move. This was even cleaner, right? Where you get above, start to form compression, you trade it towards that POC, sometimes even towards that value area high, right? So when we lose one of these levels, we should know the same logic applies. So what we want to see for strength, this. And I stated, if we don't do this, we logically should trade into this red box. Perhaps take out this wick or take out a wick even further. And just logically, that if we were unable to get above these highs and this value area low, we should just be bearish on the lower time frame and wait till it trades into that red area. And I stated I don't know if it will form its bottom at the top or at the bottom, whatever. We just watch those flows and we watch how price reacts to the levels, right? So I did not trade this. It was too fast. I was not watching the screen. So what one did we get? I did trade the BTC setup on that New York reversion, where I had a tiny impulse trade, but this was that ETH banger, right? ETH perfectly took this liquidity at first, started running towards that value area low. We were unable to get above this, started rounding off, right? Where we see those lows, those highs, I mean, getting lower, forming some compression at the upside, and start grinding down where we there formed 1, 2, and 3, right? So we see this clearly holding, and that was that level that we wanted to see hold, because otherwise we could have seen a lot more downside, which the level held, so we did not see downside. And where did we get a logical retest again? Later on in that range, because now we still have to extend this part where it still has not broken out of that range, and you see that retest being on that value area low, where we reclaimed it, we went back into it, and then it really started running off. So what do we want to see break? That value area high. So that's more like this point. Well, you see the line, you get what I mean. So that's the point that we want to see break. And level on the BTC volume chart I did not point out yet, I think, is that even if we get, because I don't think we will be getting downside right now, I think we will be grinding up a little bit further before we get downside. But the logical levels to hold are these, right? This point, and then this point. So when we take that entire range, then we see that this is your value area high. So then this will be a range breakout with retest. What do we want to clear? Because this is a kind of important thing. You guys know the liquidity sweeps. How do we identify them? And how do we invalidate them? Because that's also an important fact. What do I state with these liquidity sweeps, right? We want to get, normally I pointed out on the downside, because that's just what happened the most often the last few weeks, where we explode towards the downside, get back above that point, get a retest, and then usually your liquidity point will be right here, or sometimes right here, right, where they are usually in between this point. And now we see this. And what do I say? How do we invalidate these types of patterns? When we get below this. So we want to make this break. So now, look at this. Yeah, there. So this we don't want. But what can we still be getting right now? Because we're at this point. So for now, we don't know if this is rejecting or breaking, right? And I think breaking will be more likely when you look at this from a breakout retest point of that range. So the point we want to see reclaim for further upside is this. So if we reclaim this, I think we will be trading higher yet again. And until where could we logically pump? That 120k would be a logical level to get extended to, that if we really break, then we extend into this. So now you also see the difference between that volume chart in terms of the range and price action, right? Here, look at that difference. So here we have this, which is more accurate than the real range when you draw it based on technicals. So this is why I point out these a lot, and I keep referring to them, because volume is not able to lie. They just don't, they can't manipulate volume, but they can manipulate price, right? A famous saying from some trader, I don't remember the name. But that's a thing people need to be mindful about. And for ETH, we are still below that value area high. So we want to see this level getting reclaimed. And then we can look at that upside again, where we see some compression perhaps, and then continuation, or we see some sort of compression folding over and we rotate down. So for now, I think the short-term bias should be to look for longs, but be a little bit on the defensive side. That if we start rejecting from previous highs, just TP some, and then if it breaks again, get back in if you're a scalper. But for swings, yeah, I think there should be a couple of swings on some altcoins. But I think for BTC, it's really not the wisest to swing it right now. But ETH looks quite decent. So I think for scalps, the bias should be up. For a more mid-term bias, like when you're talking 24 hours, perhaps 84 hours, we should be mindful that if we really extend into this, that we should get a bottle setting pressure. So yeah, if we get some short-term upside, we should be getting some manipulation on Monday. So if you don't want to be scalping those smaller moves and more risky moves, just wait out for the levels to be formed on Monday and play those on the Tuesday. As a little trick for you guys. And the last two things to take in account again is that ETH BTC chart, which it ended up reversing right when I made that video. So that played out beautifully, where I stated we want to see a lower high being formed on this and a higher low to be formed on that ETH BTC. So we are making a lower high again, where we just drop down. Because on a daily, how it is currently looking, beautiful. For ETH BTC, yeah, we see it. So wanted to point these points out real quick. So I think this Saturday, this Sunday, I mean, we should be bullish, but watch out for that daily close, because we could get some sort of lower time frame reversal, and some high volume coming in. So I hope you guys liked the video for today. Keep this setup in mind, which I shared earlier before we were trading right around here, where I stated we want to see those highs getting reclaimed, with this being that Fibonacci and that lower time frame high that we had before, and then we can look at the upside again. But until then, we should just chop slash go down, which we really did, because what can we see again? Which I will end it on this note, and I keep pointing it out, and I will be stopping with it in a bit with pointing this out, but I keep having to do it. Look at this, the open top left 1144. We have it right there. And now look what happened from that open onto the lower time frame. We get a tiny move towards the downside, get a deeper move towards the downside, take out liquidity, reverse, right from the daily open. The easiest strategy in the book. So if you stuck to the end of this video, you had a little bit of alpha, keep this daily open reversion in mind. It's a very powerful strategy. This can occur on both sides. So keep in mind, this can also happen in the opposite direction, right? Where it first gets above, and then everyone thinks it's a breakout, and then it starts grinding down instead, with sometimes even a retest of that daily open. So watch this level for the daily close. This high we want to see getting held. So to sum it up, this point to break, this point to hold, this point to break, and for ETH, it's very clear what we need to be breaking that level with this as that next extension. So I hope you guys liked the video. Alien out.